After your investigations, how much money did you see go through this Ponzi scheme?
$2 billion.
In how long?
5 years.
$2 billion. $2 billion in 5 years.
In 5 years. Let me tell you the best performing month. And this matches exactly what the forensic auditor told me. In March, so this would be the last full month of Brian McClain's life, they did $228,932,748. That was in the month of March alone. Their next best performing month before that was December of 23, where they did 106 million. And in February, they did 189.
If they don't have the cattle that they say they have, how are they generating this kind of money?
They were making pay sheets, and they were sending those. They were sending those to the banks. They were sending so they would get a loan. And I'm sure that we're going to get into the banking and the banking apparatus of this, because that's very important for this story. So they inflate these cattle counts, and they take the 70 million was the last that they got on a loan from this Rabo Bank. They take that 70 million, and there was check kiting going on. And I didn't even know what check kiting was until this operation and investigation. So they would make these pay sheets. They would get on the Dow for the day, find the price of cattle. So let's say that a fattened heifer costs $1,100 for X amount of meat, and they see that on the Dow ticker. They would create these pay sheets where it would, for $500,000 worth of cows. We moved, McClain Feed Yard moved and sold for the client 196 fattened heifers times like 1,100. So they would put that number down on these pay sheets. They would submit them to the banks, and there's these ghost checks running around, and they're getting paid off this. They're getting paid. So it was amazing to me, and we'll get into the discovery of the large cachet of those, I'm sure, in a little bit. But that's essentially how they did it. It was just paper. It's just paper going to the bank, and they're getting paid off. I mean, I still have a hard time wrapping my head around this, especially when you see the escalation. So when this fraud started in 2018, the first 2 months of this, we don't see anything going on. The first month, we see 146,000. The second month, we see 1,275,000. Then we go to 2 million, and then it just ramps up. Goes into 13 million in 2019 for most of these months. By the end of 2019, they're doing 90 million a month, all the way until 2023, where you see these numbers of 106 million in January, February 189, March $289 million. I mean, this stuff added up very fast.
So this is a little confusing, but you're telling me that they pretty much had ghost cattle and ghost purchases and taking it to the bank and being paid off it. And that's kind of how it's been happening.
That's exactly what was happening. And I'm sure that there was something going on with the banks that we have yet to discover. And I would absolutely love to finish this investigation and find out the rest of that. We know that whenever there was some type of hang up where they would have to get a cash flow going, and that's where the investment scheme came in. That's where the investors came in. So McClain was telling people, well, I'll hold 200 cows for you that cost $1,100. I'll fatten them up. I'll take them to the market. I'll sell them for you. You'll get paid. So they used that money to put that into the banks. And then they would, when they got payment from the banks, they would pay that person back, and they give them a little bit more on top of that. So it would appear that they're covering all of those investments. Until towards the end, they didn't care. They just took average all of them.
So, right, the show is Borderland Narcosis. And I want to talk about, how does this connect to the cartel?
It's a term I just thought of yesterday. It's called narco banking. That's what I would like to call this, is narco banking. So, and there's a lot of stuff here. This is how it wraps in. So Rabo Bank, this is a subsidiary of Deutsche Bank, and they're in the Netherlands. Rabo Bank in 2018, there was a similar incident to this. They were fined $370 million. One of the American CEOs avoided prison time. Probably should have gotten it because we wouldn't be here right now, but did some research into that. And between 2012 and 2016, Rabo Bank at their Calexico location became one of their best performing banks in the whole country. And this is a major bank. We wonder why. Why would their bank on the Mexican border be their best performing bank in the country? Well, it's because they got busted laundering cartel money. I mean, that's not speculation. That's fact. In 2018, they were fined $370 million for cleaning cartel money. And that'll take you on a rabbit hole on its own. That started in 2008, and it went all the way until 2016, until they were finally issued that massive fine. And they're under investigation right now. We just found out a new one in the Netherlands as of April 2025 for essentially the same exact thing.
Their current investigation, is it for the McLean case?
I don't know. I have not been able to find anything outside of the country on that other than what surface level that's online. However, I did identify a group called, it's an NGO. It's called SMX Collective. And this gentleman's brother was killed by the Sinaloa cartel. And he did a write-up, and he is an activist about, having some accountability for his brother's death. And he blames Rabo Bank, and he wrote a really good piece about this. And yes, yep.
All right, we're gonna have to get him on here to continue to talk about this. How does a bank? So the bank is here in America.
Yes, they've got their American branch, and they've got their main branch that is in the Netherlands. It's a big one. I mean, it's a subsidiary of Deutsche Bank, so it's huge.
Man. And so how is the cartel using that? How is the narco banking you talked about? How does this fall into the whole conversation?
Well, you've got to have clean money to buy things. We all know that. So Rabo it was their largest cash performing bank in the country. So they're taking cash. They were saying that it was for rural farming. So they're taking this cash and they're putting it into the bank, and they're doctoring it up to make it look like, it's legitimate. Okay, so they had 400,000 in sales this month. They had 600,000 in sales this month. And rural farming on the border, it's cash, nobody's questioning.